are and how fast we can safely get out of this. Mr. Speaker, we're confident we have the supplies to meet our target to offer the vaccine to the foremost vulnerable groups by the 15th of February. We now have over 400 million doses of vaccine on order, including the additional 40 million doses from Valneva that we ordered yesterday. And Mr. Speaker, that we find ourselves in this position is no accident. Our strategy has been to invest early and invest at risk. We've backed many horses, no matter where they're from, and we've also built up our vaccine manufacturing capability here at home. As a result, today, we have the AstraZeneca jab being manufactured in Oxford and Staffordshire and Wrexham, the Novavax vaccine made in Teesside, and the Valneva vaccine manufactured in Livingston in Scotland. It's a great example of what we can achieve together, working as one united kingdom. Mr. Speaker, despite this optimistic backdrop, we must continue to act with caution, not least because of the renewed challenges posed by new variants of the coronavirus. We have found here 105 cases of the variant first identified in South Africa, including 11 cases which don't appear to have any links to international travel. As with the variant first identified here in the UK, there's currently no evidence to suggest it is any more severe, but we have to come down on it hard. Our mission must be to stop its spread altogether and break those chains of transmission. In those areas where this variant has been found, parts of Broxbourne, London, Maidstone, Southport, Walsall and Woking, we're putting in extra testing and sequencing every positive test. Working with local authorities, we're going door to door to test everyone in those areas, and mobile testing units will be deployed, offering PCR tests to people who have to leave their home for work or other essential reasons. We have also seen 11 cases of mutations of concern in Bristol and 32 in Liverpool, and are taking the same approach. In all these areas, it is imperative that people must stay at home and only leave home where it is absolutely essential. When your local authority offers you a test, you should take up the offer, because we know that around 1 in 3 people with coronavirus have no symptoms but can still pass it on. We're offering testing to everyone aged 16 and over, even if you have been vaccinated. And if you live in one of those areas but have not been contacted and you're unsure if you should have a test, I encourage you to visit your local authority website to find out. Anyone who must leave home to go to a workplace, for instance, because they cannot work from home, should get tested. All local employers should support and encourage their workers to get tested, and the message is more important than ever: to stay at home, maintain social distancing, and get tested. Mr. Speaker, across the whole country, we're expanding workplace testing, including here in Parliament itself. And this morning, you and I together visited the new COVID testing site here in Parliament, which offers all of those who work here, peers, MPs and staff, the chance to get tested. I took a test this morning, thankfully negative. It's quick and easy, and you get the result back fast. And I encourage colleagues who have to be here in person to sign up and do the same. And for all of us, no matter where we live, we need to continue to follow those rules, because while more scientific work is underway to learn more about new variants, we know with absolute certainty that social distancing works. It denies the virus the social contact it needs to spread. We must all keep at it. We've sacrificed too much and come so far with the vaccine to give it up now. And I know that we won't. Mr. Speaker, in closing, if I may say, while we've been working night and day to fight coronavirus, I have often drawn inspiration from our fight against another killer pandemic of HIV, a disease that also took too many people before their time. And this is HIV Test Week. It's a reminder of how important it is to get your free HIV test. But it's also a reminder of the progress we've made in tackling that terrible pandemic, that we can credibly commit to no new transmissions by the end of this decade. And today, I'm sure the whole House will join me in wishing Lord Norman Fowler a very happy 83rd birthday. He was an inspirational former Health Secretary, a fearless advocate for tackling HIV and AIDS. Lord Fowler is someone who knows the importance of taking action early and the power of testing to turn the tide. So as we face these difficult weeks ahead, we can all draw inspiration from that great struggle, that even when faced with a mountain of challenges, science, ingenuity, and the sheer power of will can see us to better days ahead. And I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Secretary of State, Jonathan Ashworth.
Grateful, Mr. Speaker, and grateful as always to the Secretary of State for advance sight of his statement. And can I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for putting in place the arrangements for testing on the estate. I'm sure members and crucially staff on the estate are extremely grateful for that initiative. Now, and I also extend my best wishes to the Lord Speaker as well on his birthday today. Now, the news that the South African variant has been identified in 8 different local authority areas is alarming and suggests significant community transmission. Can I just ask him to run through the timelines? Because when did these 11 cases test positive, and how long does the genetic sequencing take? And when was he told of these cases? And can these processes be made speedier? I'm told, for example, the Ealing case tested positive in late December. Now, these variants bring into focus the importance of border controls. Times Radio reports that hotel quarantine arrangements won't be in place until the 15th of February. Why the delay? And according to the Times newspaper, Sage warned 2 weeks ago tougher quarantine restrictions for everyone entering the UK were needed. The government disputes this interpretation, so will he publish the Sage minutes from 21st of January? I welcome the extra testing, but can I suggest he goes further? Because people move beyond their postcode boundaries. They go shopping. Many still have to go to work. Will he therefore roll out testing in neighbouring postcodes? He wants to come down hard on this variant, but isn't the lesson of mass testing, such as in Liverpool, that people are hesitant to take a test if they aren't compensated for any loss of income associated with self-isolation? We are fighting this virus with one hand tied behind our back, asking the low pay to go hungry in order not to spread the virus. Transmission chains won't be broken without decent sick pay and isolation support. We've seen the Kent B777 variant spread with speed. Now, Public Health England's latest technical briefing reports that the B117 sequences with the E484K mutation seen in the South African variant, and this has now been identified. This is very worrying because this mutation which is thought to be behind the partial vaccine evasion. Surely this suggests that further action is going to be needed. So, for example, Germany, Austria and France are recommending FFP2 face masks on public transport and shops. I mean, the chair of the Select Committee has also suggested this. Will he now review the evidence and look at this? And on vaccination, I again congratulate the NHS. Now, not all care homes have been vaccinated. Those with a COVID outbreak have not been vaccinated for understandable reasons. But could he tell us how many of these care homes are outstanding? And there have been reports of some care staff turning down vaccination. So can he tell us how many care staff have been vaccinated? And will he ensure the NHS collects data on the numbers turning down vaccination so we can target and overcome vaccine hesitancy more effectively? Public health services have an important role in tackling vaccine hesitancy. When will public health directors know their allocations for the next financial year? And Mr. Speaker, UNICEF have warned that children are not the face of this pandemic, but they risk being amongst its biggest victims. Now, I accept it was inevitable that schools would close given community transmission levels, but that doesn't make it any less devastating. We're depriving young people of social interaction, of play with their friends. Learning is not the same. Mental health problems are increasing. There'll be children in homes where there is violence or drink abuse or substance misuse prevalent. Children's health must always be a priority. So on current plans, how many teachers will be vaccinated as part of bands 5 to 9? And how many teachers and support staff will have to wait until the period between Easter and summer to be vaccinated? Last September, it was reported 25,000 teachers had been off sick related to COVID, further disrupting children's learning. So how can he ensure we don't see the same disruption again from March when it's hoped schools return? Finally, Mr. Speaker, this is indeed HIV testing week. And over the weekend, I binge watched It's a Sin. And I was in tears. I was in tears, Mr. Speaker. Now, thankfully, HIV is not a death sentence today. People living with HIV are in phase 6 for vaccination, but only if they have disclosed their HIV status to their GP. Many haven't and still don't want to because of the stigma we saw portrayed in It's a Sin. So will he ensure that people living with HIV are able to access vaccination at their HIV clinic?
Secretary of State.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And just to answer the honourable gentleman's many questions, he's absolutely right to raise the importance of of coming down hard on the cases of new variants that we've discovered here in the UK. And these are cases that have been seen over the past 2 months. And the action that we're putting into place is action to make sure that we stop further spread and further spread in the community, alongside the action taken to ensure that there's no spread from those who have got a history of international travel. As he knows, we brought in tougher action at the border, and we stand ready to do more. He asked for the SAGE minutes to be published. They are published regularly. And he also asked for the neighbouring postcodes to those postcodes where a new variant case has been found, where it's a new variant that is a variant of concern. We absolutely do that where it is epidemiologically sensible. So, for instance, if the case is found on the border of a postcode, obviously we go across that border. And we also investigate linked premises. For instance, if somebody had a child at a school or is going to work in a particular workplace, and then working with the Director of Public Health, we will ensure that testing is directed there as well. He raises the issue of isolation payments, and we have the £500 isolation payment in place. So nobody need, as he put it, and nobody should go hungry because they have to isolate. What is critical in these areas is that people stay at home unless they absolutely have to. It is imperative that people follow the rules to get these new variants completely under control. He asked on the care home success. I'm delighted that we've been able to reach so many care homes. I said in my statement that we have reached 10,307 care homes. That's in England. There are 110 care homes where the vaccination programme is still outstanding because they've had outbreaks, and for clinical reasons, the vaccination programme can't start there, but it will as soon as it's clinically possible. He also asked about the data being shared from the vaccination programme. And that data is now routinely shared with local directors of public health, precisely for the reasons that he sets out, so we can reach more parts. And finally, he ends on the question of education. And of course, we understand how challenging the impact of this lockdown is on those with children who have to be schooled at home. And that's why the Prime Minister has said that schools should be the first thing to open when it is safe and possible to do so. Sadly, that time isn't yet, but the more that we all follow the rules that we've set out so clearly, the quicker that time will come.
Video link to the Chair of the Health Select Committee, Jeremy Hunt.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I thank the Health Secretary for liaising with me on the issues in Surrey over the weekend, where the actions taken by him and the outstanding leader of Surrey County Council, Tim Oliver, are absolutely right. He mentioned that at the weekend we reached the milestone of offering the vaccine to everyone in care homes except for where there's been an outbreak. Does he agree that we should crown that tremendous achievement by making 2021 a year as significant for the social care sector as 1948 was for the NHS when it was founded, with a long-term financial settlement, implementing DIL not, and setting it up for the future with a 10-year plan?
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, my right honourable friend knows that we set out in our manifesto, committed in the manifesto, and were elected on a manifesto to resolve the long-standing problems in social care. The Prime Minister has set out to the liaison committee, of which he, of course, is a member, the timetable on which he hopes that we're able to deliver on that commitment. Alongside dealing with this pandemic, Madam Deputy Speaker, we are working to deliver our manifesto commitments, whether it's on social care or the 40 new hospitals or the 50,000 more nurses. And I look forward to being held to account by the Select Committee on those commitments.
Video link to the SNP spokesperson, Dr. Philippa Whitford.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I would like to associate myself with the Secretary of State's comments on HIV Test Week. But it's very concerning to hear that over 100 cases of the South African variant have been detected in the UK, particularly as they don't represent a single outbreak, but are widely scattered across England. The concern, of course, is that while current vaccines will still give a significant degree of protection, this variant's resistance to some COVID antibodies could reduce their effectiveness. So does the Secretary of State plan to tighten internal travel restrictions to avoid it spreading across the UK, as happened with the Kent variant? And will there be increased random genomic testing of PCR specimens out with these areas to identify just how widespread it already is? Unfortunately, this is shutting the barn door after the horse has bolted. The government has been aware of the concern about this variant for some time, and the SAGE advisory group warned that limited travel bans wouldn't be enough to keep out new COVID variants, and the only way to stop them would be mandatory quarantine for all arrivals. So why did the government choose not to follow this advice? This variant is already present in many countries, and new, more resistant COVID variants could evolve anywhere in the world. So will the government now reconsider their very minimal quarantine plan and extend it to all incoming travellers? And finally, as new strains brought in through holiday travel last year contributed to the second wave of COVID, is the Prime Minister seriously suggesting people should go abroad on holiday this summer?
Well, thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. I think what the SNP spokeswoman failed to mention is that it's only because we built the huge genomic surveillance capacity that we now have that is available right across the UK that we've been able to spot these variants of concern. And this is a critical point because these sorts of variations happen everywhere, but the challenge is to spot them as soon as you can and act on them. She asks about travel, and we've already in place rules against all non-essential travel with a clear stay local guidance. And we also have mandatory isolation for new arrivals. So yes, we have tightened in response to the new evidence that she mentions. But she didn't also mention the fact that it is only because the vaccine program is rolling out so rapidly across the whole UK that we are able to protect people against the old variant, which of course is the most widespread, the combination of the old variant and the variant first discovered in Kent. And that is the way that we will get out of this, this situation. That is a UK program, and we are enthusiastic and willing from the UK government point of view to do everything we possibly can to support that rollout, including all the way across Scotland, to make sure that people in Scotland and every other part of this United Kingdom can get their jab as soon as possible.
Video link, Robert Helfen.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I pay tribute to my right honourable friend and the Vaccinations Minister for the work that you have all done on vaccines. Will my right honourable friend thank Essex Council, NHS staff and volunteers in Harlow who have so far vaccinated many thousands of residents. Public Health England have said that adults over 18 with learning disabilities are at greater risk of dying than most people aged 65 to 74. International studies show that if you're learning disabled aged 55 to 64, death rates are comparable with those over 80. My right honourable friend will have seen the parliamentary petition on this signed by many thousands. So will he work with the JCVI to move the adult learning disabled high up the priority list for vaccinations?
Secretary of State.
Well, thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I pay tribute to all those who are working in Harlow, including at the Harlow mass vaccination site, and also the GPs and the pharmacists who are working so hard to vaccinate people right across Harlow. On the question of the JCVI ordering and the prioritisation for vaccination, as he knows, I think the best approach is to take the clinical advice and to follow that clinical advice. The sorts of considerations that he raises are an important part of the JCVI deliberations. I know they've looked very closely at the subject that he raises. What matters now that they've made and published their decision, is that we drive through the vaccination programme to get through as many of those groups as possible. I'm very pleased to see the hundreds of thousands of new vaccinations that are taking place every day.
Scarica l'applicazione di Tele Londra, è gratuita e rimani connesso con il mondo italiano in UK. Ricevi le informazioni per gli italiani in UK tutti i giorni.
Se anche tu vuoi fare pubblicità su Tele Londra, scrivici a info@telelondra.uk o contattaci al numero 07 43 21 99 430.